Hello, I'm Steve Houck, and welcome to VOA's Music Alley Spotlight. A consummate artist and 21st century Renaissance woman, Patti Austin has been entertaining audiences worldwide for the better part of 6 decades as one of music's most distinct and cherished voices. A Grammy winner, beloved musical ambassador, the New York native remains a mainstay among jazz and soul audiences around the globe, while also being a guiding light to young people with her over-the-shoulder mentoring foundation. A woman of many talents and a caring heart, we welcome Patti Austin.
I'm looking around behind me. You surely cannot be referring to me.
Who is it?
And, who is that person?
Welcome to the Voice of America.
Thank you.
So nice to have you here.
It's great to be here.
You're in town to play Lisner Auditorium tomorrow evening with the Count Basie Orchestra.
Woo!
Do you love performing as much as you ever have?
Oh yeah, more now than ever, because I do a lot of international work at this point. And for the last 10 years, much of what I've been doing internationally has been with symphony orchestras and big bands around the world. And the body of work that I've been performing from is Ella Fitzgerald's. Mm-hmm. So it's a mighty rich pudding.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, it's just a lot of incredible material that I get to kind of retailer for me, because I don't want to imitate Ella. That's impossible. You know,
right.
that's a once in a million year voice and attitude and everything else. But I do love rummaging through her closet of material and having it retailored so that I can perform it and kind of spread the gospel about how magnificent she was.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I know you're doing a couple of shows out on the West Coast in Oregon with that are Ella focused.
Right.
You know, what was the draw to you from Ella Fitzgerald's music, and why do you sing it many years later? Why is it so important?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When I was a little girl singing, because I started in the business when I was 4. I used to hear about Ella all the time. I used to hear Ella all the time because my dad was a jazz musician, and my parents worked split shifts, so I ended up spending all my days with my dad because my mom worked during the day and my dad worked at night. And my dad, being a jazz musician, practiced pretty much at least 2-3 hours a day and sat me next to him and let me see and hear all that he was about. And when he wasn't doing that, he was playing some kind of music from somebody. He listened to absolutely everything, from Stravinsky to Big Mama Thornton to Patsy Cline to, you know, country western folk music. He listened to everything. And so I listened to everything. And it really influenced me. And I think subliminally, perhaps, I was being influenced by Ella, because I used to listen to Ella also. So that by the time I was about 6 or 7 years old, I used to get that question, who's your influence? Because I hear a lot of Ella in there, you know. And I would go, I don't know what that means. You hear a lot of Ella in there. I'm 7 years old. I'm not thinking about, perhaps I'm absorbing what it is that she's doing. But I think I did, subliminally and subconsciously. And it just stuck with me. And just the sound of her voice has always fascinated me. Just the very tone of it is just so fascinating to me. It's such a beautiful vibrato. It's just got this even rhythm to it. It's you know, I don't equate it to Michael Jackson's vibrato because his was completely different, but it was so much about the attraction of his voice, was the way he sounded when he went to that tone, to that vibrato. It was like, oh, that's just such a cool, it's like a little hummingbird on fire, you know. And Ella had this wonderful bounce in the vibrato, and and as her voice matured, it got richer and deeper and more velvet-like, and so that's what always captured me about her. And then I found out that she was very much focused on trying to sound like an instrument as much as possible, which was the way that singers approached music at that time. Singers were always trying to sound like Dizzy or Charlie Parker, or you wanted to have this instrumental tonality, and she captured that in such a magnificent way and took it to the heavens. You know, just her scatting alone was just phenomenal. And then when I found out Dizzy Gillespie taught her how to scat by playing stuff for her and she'd sing it back. And I knew Dizzy, and I asked him about that. This is years ago, and he said he could play like a 32-bar sequence of notes for her, and she'd sing it back note for note. A tasket, a brown and yellow basket. I bought a basket for my mommy. On the way I dropped it.
On the way I dropped it, a little girlie picked it up and she took it to the market. Well, she was trucking on down the avenue without a single thing to do. She was pecking all around when she spied it on the ground. She took it, she took it, she took my yellow basket. And if she doesn't bring it back, I think that I will die. Oh yeah, that's right. You know that she took it. I said she took it last night. Uh-huh, that's right, last night. A tisket, a tasket. She took my yellow basket. And if she doesn't bring it back, I think that I will die. Oh gee, I wonder where my basket could be. Oh gee, I wish that little girl I could see. I wonder what happened to that basket of mine. That itty bitty teeny tiny basket was joy of mine. Oh, what tisket, a tasket, a brown and yellow basket. Won't someone help me find my basket, make me happy again? No, 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 no. Are you listening? No, just a little yellow basket. A little yellow basket.
Your father was jazz sax player Gordon Austin. Your
Trombonist.
Trombonist, excuse me.
Trombone man.
Trombone man. Your godmother was Dinah Washington.
Right, yeah.
It seems like music was preordained. You just spoke of being
Kinda.
4 and 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Was there any other track?
No. Well, when I was 8, I wanted to be a singing veterinarian.
Like most 8-year-old girls
Of course,
love to be
doesn't
vets,
everybody
right?
want to be a vet until you find out what you got to do, and it's like, no, no, not that. So I stepped away from the critters.
Right.
But no, that was all. It was preordained, and then of course my dad pounded it gently into me with all the time that we spent together. I was very blessed to most girls don't get to spend that much time with their dads, especially in that time in America. You know, this is when dads were out working and, you know, kids were either in school or they were home with mom. And my situation was the complete opposite, and it worked really great for me because my mom was a horrible singer and a wonderful woman, but not a great singer. Yeah.
How much do you remember Godmother Dinah?
I just remember being adored and cherished by her because she always wanted a daughter. And so I kind of represented the daughter she never had. And I got to see this most tender, gentle, kind, magnificent woman, which was not the way others got to see her because she kept her iron pants on. You know, one of the things about this business, when you're a woman in the entertainment business, you are always working with guys, always in the company of men. And it's impossible not to become one of the guys if you keep working with the guys. And you get rough and tough, and you get a garbage mouth, and you cuss people out, and you kind of overcompensate because you're a woman to kind of keep stuff off of you. And Dinah was a champion of that. I went to Chicago to Johnson Publications and to get the tour of Johnson Publications. This was way back in the day. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Johnson met me at the ground floor, stepped off the elevator, grabbed me by the hand and said, "Let me tell you about your godmother." Oh. I was like, this does not bode well. He said, when he was a Cub reporter, he was assigned to do a story about Dinah. She was a very big star at the time. And he spent a week with her, and he found her to be the kindest, just what I described, this kind, gentle, sweet, wonderful woman. And he wrote this kind, gentle, sweet, wonderful piece about her and sent it to her to read and approve. And she said, "Don't you dare publish this. You will destroy my life." She did not want anybody to know that that's who she really was. Really? She was in the industry, and among musicians, she was known as a tough broad. Wow. But boy, when she stopped singing, she was just a marshmallow.
Oh, that's
She was
beautiful.
a sweetheart.
Yeah,
So I had a tremendous relationship with her, and she was always trying to integrate me into her situation. And as a result of that, and by that I mean she always wanted us to perform together. And as a result of that, I got to meet my godfather, who she forced to become my godfather, because she took me to this young up-and-coming arranger's basement apartment, to get some keys for some songs that we were going to sing together at the Apollo. And the guy that I sang for was a up-and-coming trumpet player / arranger named Quincy Jones.
Right.
And after I sang, he said, he said to Dinah, "Are you sure she's not a midget?" And Dinah said, "No, she's really a little girl." He said, and she said, "And she's my goddaughter." And Quincy said, "Well, now she's my goddaughter too." So that's how he became my godfather.
Right, and you've had a
Yeah.
lifelong relationship with him.
Absolutely.
Right. In fact, a clip I watched the other day, he was applauding you in the audience. That was a beautiful thing.
My sweetheart. Yeah.
Speaking of Ella, again, you have your newest release is called Ella Tunes.
Yes.
Speak a little bit about that release.
Well, this is fun. I'm having so much fun working on this project. We've got the fabulous Gordon Goodwin doing all of the arrangements and horns for this thing. And if you don't know Gordon, he's got a great band called the Big Fat Band. He also has a Little Fat Band, that's with a P, P-H-A-T. And he's just one of the baddest guys out there for doing this kind of music, because we've really gone kind of big band, back into her vault of Chick Webb. We've got a few Chick Webb things on the record, which I've never ventured into. I've always done her later catalog. And we've reworked a bunch of stuff. I'm finally doing Mac the Knife on this record, which is, to me, the classic, and in the song make a reference to her Berlin performance, which is very infamous because Ella, for Ella fans, they know this very well, she performed Mac the Knife in Berlin and forgot the lyrics. And so I refer to that in the song, that she forgot the lyrics, but it means absolutely nothing, because she just kept swinging all the way to the end. So there are little homages to Ella throughout the record that kind of reference her music and the history of it. And we've got the great ballads, and we've done a really insane version of Get Happy. We've taken it completely gospel. It's somewhere between Elvis and gospel and big movie musical number. And a lot of the perspective on this record, might sound strange, is cinematic, because when I started, I have a tendency when I work on a tune to think of it as a screenplay. And I want to bring that screenplay to life. So we're doing April in Paris, and one of the interesting, fun things that happened with that, I had this idea in my mind of how I wanted to do the song, but I was on the road and I couldn't get a hold of Gordon to tell him what I was thinking. And his schedule was getting tight, and he said, "I got to get this arranged. Tell me what you want me to do." And I never had a chance to tell him. When I finally had a chance to tell him, he had already laid the tracks. So I get the tracks, and I'm making the sign of the cross going, "Oh gosh, I hope he knew what to do." Absolutely everything I was thinking is what he did, because one of the things I wanted to do was have him repeat the refrain from the infamous arrangement, da 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 da, da 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 da, that bass he played, da 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 do day. And I kept saying, is there any way, oh, I hope there's a way he can integrate that into the song. I put the demo on, and that's the very first thing that was played by an accordion. Oh my. So I said, okay, this is going to be a lot. And that was, I think, maybe the third thing we worked on together. So this has been the most fun I have ever had working on this kind of project. Gordon and I have a weird sixth sense about how to do stuff. And we're just kind of exploring different fun, unique ways to do these tunes.
It's very clear our love is here to stay, not for a year, but ever and a day. The radio and the telephone and the movies that we know may just be passing friends. time may go, but oh my dear, our love is here to stay. Together we'll go in a long, long way. In time the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble, they're only made of clay, but our love is here to stay. But oh my dear, our love is here to stay. Together we'll go in a long, long way. In time the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble, they're only made of clay, but our love is here to stay. Don't you know that our love is here to stay? You know our love is here to stay. Every minute and every hour. You know, baby, you and me, we got a whole lot of that love power. You know our love is here to stay. See boo ba boo doo day day.
Speaking of the cultural kind of cross-reference here, you sang at the opening of the National African American Museum, which had to be a profound experience.
The pride of my life.
What was that like, and what does the whole experience of that museum mean to you? Obviously,
everything about that was surreal. I managed to wrangle myself an invitation for the donors' dinner the night before the show, so I got to see the museum. I walked in the door of the museum and a friend of mine came over and said, "Oh, so glad you're here. Listen, do you want to meet Dave Chappelle?" I said, "Do I want to meet Dave Chappelle? Are you kidding me? I want to marry Dave Chappelle." And he grabbed me and dragged me across the room and introduced me to Dave Chappelle. And with that, I met Dave's wife and daughter. His little girl is maybe, I guess, 4 or 5. Mm-hmm. She is exactly like him. She is hilarious. My. She is as precocious as I ever was, times 10, and absolutely brilliant. She grabs me by the hand. I had my phone in my hand, and I have this cover on my phone that looks like a little furry animal. Mm-hmm. She was immediately attracted to that, my fuzzy phone. And she said, I want to take pictures with your phone. I said, absolutely. So I got to see the African American Museum with Dave Chappelle's 5-year-old.
Wild. Oh, what a beautiful experience.
Through her eyes, dragging me from one exhibition to the other. When we got to the sports exhibition, she was posing with all of the different statues going into her. I have a whole phone full of pictures of her posing with every statue and with every picture of every athlete. It was just magnificent. It was incredible. And it is an amazing experience if you can get there at some point and put it on your bucket list if you're not there yet. Isn't it incredible?
It is unbelievable. It's mind-blowing. Profound experience.
Yeah, it really is.
What song
and to
did
do
you
that show was insane.
What did you sing?
Don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. And Savion Glover and I got to open the show, and I've got the Obamas sitting in the box over my head, just smiling, just Chuck E. Cheesing like crazy. And I'm like, I think I just died and went to heaven. And everybody loved it, and we were so excited to open the show with that kind of music because unfortunately, you don't hear a lot of jazz on TV. Mm-hmm. And one of my big battles in life is to get that music out there in a different way. It's interesting that I worked in the ad business for 15 years, and it's interesting that the ad business, when they want to show sophistication and class and want to sell you something, the underscoring is usually from the genre of jazz.
Right.
But, you know, we can't have a special jazz production number on a variety show, God forbid. Everybody will change the channel. They don't want to hear the jazz. And we rocked the Casbah.
I bet.
And it was a great moment, and everybody commented on it. People just loved that number so much, loved that opening. We had dancers, we had a guy that was doing a Cab Calloway thing.
Right.
So it was just that was a wonderful TV special, as a matter of fact.
Right.
I wish they would put it on demand,
Right.
on ABC, because they never aired it again. Usually when they do a special like that on a major network, they keep it on demand for a month, and it came on like just before Black History Month. So for some reason they didn't maintain it. So I'm putting it out there, you guys.
Right.
Put it on demand so people can see it, because it's not only a wonderful variety show because the music is incredible. Usher did there were just so many highlights in the show. Usher did an incredible number, tribute to James Brown. It was just amazing stuff. So if you can rattle the cages of the powers that be, bring it back, bring it back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we want to be able to see it again. It's history.
You said something recently, you know, that your longtime fans are with you, but there's a younger audience that you're seeing and that is attracted to your music. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's the younger audience tends to be more international, because everywhere but here, jazz is revered and considered to be the classical music of America. Yeah, how ironic. But you know, it happened because the State Department decided in the 40s and 50s, right up to the 60s, to send musicians around the world, and the musicians they decided to send were all jazz. Right. They decided that they wanted jazz to represent this country, to be the music that we shared with the rest of the world. And it worked. And so when I go overseas to perform, people come to see the show and they bring their kids. Grandparents come to see the show and they bring their 8-year-old, their 9-year-old, they bring their grandchildren. And these kids have been steeped in this music. Just like we get steeped in Beethoven and Bach, you know, here's the classical music from the mother country. Right. They're getting steeped in our music, and they really understand it, and they really love it. And I really love doing, there's also a huge following in Australia now. There's always been a big following in Asia, right. Europe, of course. But it's just, and I think that people like Esperanza Spalding and artists from the younger marketplace are helping to draw kids into this music, because the interesting thing I find about jazz is it requires a certain amount of cultivation. It's kind of like eating caviar. The first time you go, ew, fish eggs, and then you get some really good ones, and it's like, oh my God, it's velvet, it's wonderful, I gotta have more. Right. And it's the same thing with jazz. If you understand the mathematics of it, the components of it, and what it's trying to say and where it comes from, it becomes a whole other listening experience. And I think kids around the world are into it. I'll go do a festival. I just did a festival a couple of years ago in New Zealand. 30,000 people. We're up there. I'm up there with the local big band doing all of this Ella stuff. And there are like 10 little kids with their grandparents. It is one of those on the lawn kind of concerts. And these 10 little kids were dancing. They heard Tisket a Tasket. I thought they were going to explode. They were just like, ah. They just loved it. They just got into it. So I always suggest to people that if you have any affinity for that music, play it for your kids. They'll come to it. You don't have to force them to it. They'll come to it because it's that good. It's that powerful. It's got an incredible energy. Yes. It came from an amazing time in our history, in this country's history. And it makes for timeless music.
We've got a couple minutes left, and aside from the music part of your life, you have done something quite incredible and admirable and started a mentoring foundation called Over My Shoulder. That is an incredible thing to do for young people. What does that do to your heart? And tell a little bit about the foundation and why you began that.
Well, I have a very eclectic life, I guess is a way to describe it. I love music and I love design. And I have a very dear friend who is big in the interior design and architectural world. And I was helping a friend put their apartment together, and I had all kinds of swatches and sketches and things that I was going to do for them. I do this as a hobby. And my friend discovered it, and she said, "What are you? Oh, you're having your house done with a designer?" I said, "No, I'm doing this for a friend." "You're doing this?" "Yeah." "What? You sing and you do this too? I hate you. This is disgusting. Why do you?" And so she was the one that actually came to me. She had worked for my manager as an assistant, and then she left the entertainment business. She went to Berkeley, studied music, was working for my manager, and then she just couldn't take show business anymore, and she moved to Boston and became a big muck-de-muck in the design world. So, but I didn't really know about her connection to the design world. So she said, "You know, you talked to me one day when I was working for Barry, my manager, and you were talking about mentoring." She said, "And I had never heard that word before. And I heard you saying that someone had mentored you, and it really, the conversation really grabbed me." She said, "And I think that I need to help you put together a mentoring organization that somehow combines your love of design and music." And so she got me involved with all the top designers in Boston. They all embraced me and said, "We will help you with anything you want to know about design, but you have to tell us everything you know about music, because I'm a frustrated guitar player." I've always wanted to sing. So we've combined these two worlds, and we've done fundraisers to send kids to school to study music. And my main goal now with the whole music thing is I try to do as many master classes as I possibly can. I do them at Berkeley. I do them in Switzerland for the Montreux Academy, Thelonious Monk. I work with all of these different foundations and organizations to keep this genre of singing alive, because I'm so afraid that it's going to disappear. Because contemporary music just kind of swallows everything up just because it's contemporary. It's the music of the generation, and it's powerful, and the generation wants to speak. And they usually don't want to go back and hear what happened before. But again, this music does not, it's totally timeless. It does not go away. It does not go out of style. The lyrics are still totally meaningful, if not more meaningful than they were in the beginning. So I'm working very hard now to make sure we have a pool of artists who really know how to do this music the right way, because there is a way to do it. And I was blessed enough to be with people who innovated how it gets done. I always call myself a really good imitator. But, you know, when you work with people like Dinah and Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan and Quincy and Joe Williams and Count Basie and Duke Ellington, these are the people, Dizzy Gillespie, these are the people that invented how this music gets done. And I was lucky enough to be there as a wee tot, soaking it all up. So I'm just trying to pass it on so that when I'm gone 100 years from now, somebody will know how to sing a tisket a tasket the right way. They can mess it up after they've sung it the right way, because that's the whole thing that's magnificent about jazz. It's very elastic. It's supposed to grow. It's supposed to change. It's supposed to be influenced by other forms and other styles. But you do have to know the root of it and where it came from before you can start messing around in the Petri dish.
Patti Austin, what a tremendous pleasure for me and for Voice of America.
Thank you.
Thanks again for joining us here on VOA's Music Alley Spotlight. I'm Steve Houck. We'll see you soon.